I feel like Bitcoin's lost its narrative. You need the number of people using the network and the connections, and there's no connections on Bitcoin. So by definition, it can't do as well. But if I can do easy, straightforward ETH staking at any time horizon, which is what the Shanghai fork is, I'm going to stake my ETH. And I think that's going to take gigantic amounts of ETH out of the market. There is a probability that is not small that that ETH actually gets unruly to the upside in a way that people don't expect.
Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Talk Crypto. In today's video, Raoul Pal of Real Vision shares his outlook for the markets in 2023 and the next bull run in 2024. Raoul believes that the next cycle might be different, and that Bitcoin might not perform as well as Web3, which is expected to experience mass adoption. He is also very bullish on NFTs because they give investors exposure to ETH, which he believes will outperform Bitcoin, due to staking creating a supply shortage, thus driving its price up. Raoul also shares his cryptocurrency predictions for 2023, as well as other assets he's considering to potentially outperform in the next cycle, so pay close attention. Let's listen to Raoul as he goes through the bullish and bearish scenarios, as well as the potential risks that may still lie ahead for crypto in 2023. But before we do, please consider subscribing to our channel, as we bring you daily content on the latest crypto news. And now, let's jump right into the video.
What was different about the 2013 example is it did a sideways range. It put this big flag pattern and then broke out again, while 2019 was that quite a big correction, taking back quite a lot of the move, and then crypto ended up the year up 100%. I don't know which way it plays out, but what's going on in my head is, okay, fine, we've got these two examples. That's not a lot to go by, but we've got a rough idea what we think it could do. But then I think about the market itself right now, and everybody is underweight. 18% of the entire market's in stables. Every hedge fund is gun shy. Retail are a bit like this. And we know the institutions did all of the work on allocation, stuff like that. And it feels that everybody's short the upside, because the more it goes up, the more that they think, fuck, I need to pull the trigger. Now, maybe that gets the excess optimism, or maybe it is so bullish because, again, if I think about the ETH burn, if we're burning stuff in a small rally from the low, imagine when participants actually really come back. I mean, we're going to end up with a lot of people wanting to buy ETH and less ETH every day coming onto the market. I just think, okay, it might be different this time. What that means, I don't know. Because the other thing I'm thinking through, and you've looked at this too, is this Shanghai fork, right? I know I don't stake because I don't want the illiquidity for a year, and I don't want to use Lido or anything, or Rocket Pool or whatever, because A, it's complicated, and B, there's another risk that I can't quantify. But if I can do easy, straightforward ETH staking at any time horizon, which is what the Shanghai fork is, I'm going to stake my ETH. And I think that's going to take gigantic amounts of ETH out of the market. Neither of us know anything here. We're just trying to figure out the probabilities. There is a probability that is not small that ETH actually gets unruly to the upside in a way that people don't expect. Because we are all expecting some sort of consolidation. We're all expecting. But if you get that moment in time where retail's piling in, there's activity going on as DeFi comes back in new forms, NFTs get going, and we've got reduced supply because of the staking, and we've got the burn. I mean, we could set ourselves up to something, this kind of tremendous crypto bubble. There's a possibility of that, I think. Look, it's not a straightforward year because I can see lots of different outcomes. Let's talk about some of the other tokens, protocols at a broad level. What's interesting to you? Mine, it's not the most liked by some people, and other people love it, is Solana. The reason, my simple thesis on Solana, I'm very simple in these things, is like they clearly wanted to go and adopt the 100, the next 100 million, 500 million, a billion people, because they're consumer facing. They've got fucking stores. They've got a phone. They kind of get that side of things. And I just look at the chart, and it's so similar to ETH in 2018, 19, with this exact same drawdown. The price pattern's the same. everyone's giving it up for dust. It's like, okay, that's interesting to me. But either way, Polygon is doing really, really well as well. It's kind of, for me, it's that Polygon Solana nexus feels like if somebody's going to crack, maybe Flow, there's other ones around, but if anybody's going to crack scale, it's that. The other one that's really interesting to me is Sui, Miston Labs.
Yeah.
Because that is hugely fast and an amazing team and that kind of stuff. So that comes out and that feels like it might be the Solana of this cycle.
Yeah.
Who knows?
We've
could
got
be instead or Arbitrum or whatever. There's a few of these to come, really big ones. It is difficult for people to figure out what is worth getting involved in. But how I've thought about it as well, I think we've talked about this in the past, is that if you invest in an ETH NFT, let's say, you get the ETH exposure. So if ETH goes from wherever we are today, 1,700, and it goes to 3,400, your NFT might move around a little bit versus ETH, but generally speaking, you get that ETH appreciation. Now, if you get it right, so, one of the reasons that I bought a punk recently was the fact that, okay, they're about as cheap as they've been, and they're like stable at 65 ETH right now. They're like high-end property. So as the market goes up, they tend to outperform because people want to show off and they want to invest their ETH and they want to buy these things. So they tend to be a call option on the bull market. I still get the ETH exposure, but if I'm right and punk's triple, which would go back to the high, then I get the ETH exposure tripled. And people don't understand this, which is why some of those grails, some of those art ones are potentially really good investments, because what's the downside of a punk in ETH terms? 30%? What's the upside? 300%? That's a 10 for 1 on an asset that's already going up potentially 10 for 1 as well. That's really interesting to me. We think that the kind of Web3 angle is going to be the big unlock for this next cycle.
Raoul is very optimistic about Ethereum due to its multiple use cases, and he is betting that Web3 will outperform in the next cycle. Regarding Bitcoin, Raoul makes his case for why he believes the Bitcoin narrative is losing momentum.
I feel like Bitcoin's lost its narrative. If we think about how things are valued in terms of Metcalfe's law, and this is valuation, not the philosophy of Bitcoin, you need the number of people using the network and the connections, and there's no connections on Bitcoin. Yes, we've got the Lightning layer that batches transactions, but there's nothing else being built on it in the same way. So by definition, it can't do as well. The other thing is that if you're an asset allocator, and given the choice of ETH versus Bitcoin and the green narrative stuff, you're always going to take ETH because it yields.
Yep.
You get a 5% real yield after supply, and you've got the access, you're betting on the technology being adopted. Why would you not? So, I just feel like Bitcoin's floundering, and it's actually getting narrower in its focus. Sure, maybe central banks and sovereign wealth funds want to hold it in their balance sheet because it has no claim against it, like gold. But that's not mass adoption. So, and the network protectors have generally won out in Bitcoin's case all the time. So the people who don't want change have generally won out. And again, maybe in the long game that works, but in the next phase, I just don't see it working as well. I just don't think it's going to attract your uncle to invest in Bitcoin next time around. He'll end up probably buying or getting an NFT which is attached to ETH without even knowing about that he's got ETH exposure. It's going to be very interesting. The other thing that I think we've skirted around is usually get an innovation bubble, then you get all the failures and stuff doesn't work. But out of that comes the learning and the next phase. And I feel that DeFi, given what happened to the centralized exchanges, I think it makes sense. I don't even know where or what, but it feels that there's a lot of innovation to come out of DeFi because people have been building, resolving issues, figuring out what goes wrong, what goes right. Let's turn it 180 degrees now and talk about what gets us wrong this year. I think for me, one of them is the Ripple case. Okay. Because, we just don't know how it's going to get ruled. And I don't think it's not a ruling on ETH or anything else, but the market may fear getting deplatformed. And I think that could be something that could cause quite a hurdle here. I think all the leverage and most of the big level scamming and all of that concentration risk is gone. Obviously, Binance is always a risk because it's such a large part of the market, and lawsuits against Binance. But I'm actually very bullish on Coinbase because of this. I mean, it's a fantastic position for Coinbase to be in. The hot VC money's definitely gone to AI.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a ton of activity of people building new stuff. And, you know, if there's anywhere that's getting allocated capital, it's that, while it was Web3 last time around. So I think it holds back the capital in the space, which is also good because the strong survive as well. And, you know, people focus more on the structural business model as opposed to the, listen, this is a binary option, let's give it a go, see if it works or not. So I think it might be a more intelligent stewardship of capital, but it's going to hold the space back because you get less innovation as well. We just don't know the path. What happens if it just goes straight up? And that's why I just don't trade it at all. I just accumulate, hold it, and don't do anything. I observe it, but, you know, I just play for the long game. I think it's easier.
Many analysts share the opinion that 2022 was a reset year, and 2023 will be an accumulation year with lots of choppy volatility, setting up for what's to come. Do you agree with Raoul's vision that ETH will outperform in the next cycle? What is your outlook for the next bull run? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. This is Let's Talk Crypto, and we'll see you in the next video.